Hey.
Boom, 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 boom. Oh my God. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Crossing the Streams, fully technically enabled edition. It's good to be here. It's good to be here.
Come out of the dark ages.
It's good to become out of the dark ages. We have our special guest, Jason Taylor. And for those of you who watch the show, you know it's that special moment where he gets to sing our theme song. Take it away, Jason.
Here's the story of some lonely fellows who spend way too much time watching the TV. All of them have jobs and friends, well, not really. Just between you and me. They made a live show out of their hobby. Every TV watcher's TV watching dream. Jeff and Ron and Sal and Bob, and then there's Howard with Zack. They call it Crossing Streams. And then one day they went live on all the platforms. You can hear the people laugh and shout and scream. Still can't find another word that rhymes with platform. But man, we cross the streams. We cross the streams.
We cross the streams. That's the way we do it here. We cross the streams. It gets worse every time.
That was Can I just tell you, Jason did the best job of anybody, and then we screwed it up. We screwed it up at the end.
Screwed up.
Some would say we added flair at the end.
So I do want. Hey, everybody! Whoa, hello. Sorry. Hey, welcome everybody to Crossing the Streams. We got record numbers. We're in 5,000 countries streaming live, so we're excited. Crossing the Streams is an amazing show. We got a great group here. We're going to talk about great TV shows that you should be streaming. We got so many great ones to cover this week. So many great things, and we're very excited. Oh, man. So what do we got? We're going to get to the Netflix Metrix in just 1 second with our buddy Zack. We're going to talk about the top 10 trending shows on Netflix. On Netflix. Well, the top of the top. Top of the
top 9 and iCarly. I have.
Yeah, if you missed last week was a big one. We talked about Starman. We talked about High Score. We talked about Punky Brewster and her adopted children. We talked about Unorthodox. And we talked about Biggie, I Got a Story to Tell. So if you didn't catch that episode, jump on that one. And that was a great one. Everything's on YouTube. Just search The Jeff Dewaskin Show on YouTube, and the Crossing the Streams channel is there.
Not matters, but in episode 2 of Punky Brewster, they're very clear that her kids are adopted. Not
very
that
clear.
It matters.
Very clear. All right.
Awesome.
Our friend Lee is here. Say hello, Lee. Good to see you.
Lee.
Hello,
Hey, Lee.
Hello.
Our friend Jerry is here. Jerry's in the hospital. Super fan Jerry. We wish him a quick recovery.
Thanks,
he's doing well. He's completely on morphine, so who knows what's going to happen during the show. So thank you for being here. Speedy recovery. And Donna Newman is here.
Hello, Donna. Hello, Donna.
Hello,
Newman.
Pleasure to see you, Donna.
We're excited. Newman, we're excited. All right, so we're going to go into our first section of It's the Metrix. No, it's the Netflix Metrix with Zack Wiseman.
We need a stinger for that, no question.
I don't know. I like Jeff just messing it up every week. I think that's really good for my morale. I like it. Netflix Metrix. So what I do is, for some reason, I have this wild obsession with the top 100 in the U.S. on the Netflix. I don't know why they do this, but of the 204 million people that have Netflix and the 74 million people of those that have it in the US, this is what they watched yesterday. The most people watched these top 10 things. And obviously I'm not going to talk about all these because I hate iCarly, which is number 10. The weird thing is now that I've been on this show, I noticed that iCarly has dips It doesn't show up here until Tuesday and Wednesday, so I think that people are getting me angry about this show anyway. But anyway, number 9 is the one we went over that before. Number 8, which is fairly new one here, it's called Jitsu. This is a crazy movie. It's been on the top 10 for 3 days now. It's directed by Dimitri Logothesis, also written by the same person. It stars Elaine Moussi, Nicolas Cage, and Raymond Perani. The basic premise. Nicolas Cage is in there. So I found out that he actually, of the 6 weeks this movie was filmed, he was there for exactly 3 days, filmed all this stuff within 3 days. But just to put this movie into premise, every 6 years, an ancient order of jujitsu fighters joins forces to battle a vicious race of alien invaders. But when a celebrated war hero goes down in defeat, the fate of the planet and mankind hangs in the balance. This movie is insane. It's based on a comic book. It goes in between some animation, some awful CGI. I did a little bit of research, and this movie had a budget of $5.5 million, and Nicolas Cage got $5 million for this movie.
Wow.
They pitched this movie to Bruce Willis 10 times, and he kept saying no over and over until he got to $5 million, and then he said, "I'll think about it." Then he never returned their phone calls. They got Nicolas Cage instead. Box office numbers of this, it made a whopping $7,000 in the box office. Yeah. It's great.
I'm guessing that wasn't wide release.
Just to put that in perspective, episode 13 of Crossing the Streams made $7,200.
Yeah. And this was a worldwide release.
That on taxes.
This went worldwide in November. And my quick review is that this movie is like if the low budget movie shopped at Kmart for an even cheaper movie. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell what's going on here. It's like the bad guy from Power Rangers show decided to fight Nicolas Cage, who's going through a Willie Nelson meets Rambo phase. For some reason, they're also fighting with swords. I don't know why. The CGI is phone grade. The acting is like stunt people practicing, and somehow Cage makes it worse. This movie is crazy. Also, it's called jujitsu, and there's no jujitsu in here. It's close combat fighting and knife stabbing and sword fighting. But honestly, there's something weird about it because it feels like a movie that's going to be on Mystery Science Theater soon. So maybe check it out. I don't know. This movie is really, really bad. But
You
moving on.
me. I want to see this movie.
Honestly, put it on if you're doing something, but do not put it on if you want to watch a good movie.
Hang on, Zach. I got a question. Who directed this again? Did you say who directed it?
Yeah, his name is Dimitri Logothetis.
Okay. He would have been better off just filming Nicolas Cage's wedding and putting that on YouTube. He would have made more money.
Have you guys seen Nicolas Cage, The History of Swearing?
Yes. He is the worst part of it. Like, I like the show. I thought the show was very cool. It was very informative. But for some reason, every time Nicolas Cage is on it, I'm like, why are you here? What are you doing here? So
5 million clams, Zach. That's why.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked you didn't want the points on the back end for this movie.
Yeah.
God. Yeah, weird premise. Okay, so number 7 is Coco Melon, no big deal. Number 6 is a new show that showed up here about 3 days ago as well. It's called Country Comfort, and it's about an aspiring young country singer, Catherine McPhee, who finds a band that she's been missing when she takes a job as a nanny for a musically talented family, a rugged cowboy, Eddie Cabrian, and his 5 children. So I grew up watching, Boy Meets World, Full House, and Growing Pains. It's one of those. It's a feel-good 90s, 80s style sitcom. There is a laugh track, and I was messing around with it until I did some research and found out that the reason they did the laugh track was because of COVID, and they wanted to do a live audience, but they couldn't. So blah, 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 blah. It's fine if you're looking for one of those feel-good kind of nothing shows, and she actually can sing really well. So I would check it out. I would give it a 4 sauce jars.
David Foster let her out of the house for a couple of days to shoot this thing.
Yeah.
Oh, she was in Smash, which was, I thought, pretty good.
Yeah.
As well. Hang on. Let's check in on. Well, first of all, you did convince Casey Ryan Plott to watch Jiu-Jitsu, and Mick Manhattan would like of the Scene Snobs would like to mention that he interviewed the director of the movie.
It's a wild movie.
Right.
How do I look on top of Catherine McPhee?
You're definitely
mentioned that Zack found a movie Bruce Willis turned down.
Yeah. He was talking to them and turned it down until they got to 5 million. At 5 million, he said the script is good, and then he never responded to him ever again. And then they had to go find Nicolas Cage.
I didn't think he turned movies down anymore. I thought he just did whatever came to his door.
Yeah, apparently it was 3 days, which apparently he only does by the hour now. But to hop back into it, so Savage is number 5. Yesterday was number 4. Operation Varsity Blues is number 3, which we're going to talk about that later on. Yeah. Ginny and Georgie, which I've already spoken on, is number 2. And number 1, this movie really just baffled me. So this movie is called Deadly Illusions. It's been on the top 10 for 6 days now. IMDb scores out of 10 stars, it gets a 3.6. And this movie is very, very bad. It's written and directed by Anna Elizabeth James. It stars Greer Grammer, Kristen Davis, and Dermot Mulrooney. That's a name that people know. It's about a best-selling famous novelist who suffers from writer's block, hires an innocent young woman to watch over her 2 children. And as the novelist dangerously indulges in her new bestseller, the line between the life she's writing and the one that she's living becomes blurred. So this movie had like an $11 million budget. It made $180,000 in worldwide box office. And honestly, like, this movie is very, very bad. All aspects of this movie are insanely bad. I don't understand. Like, the villain just kind of comes out of nowhere in the middle of the movie, and you're like, what? Who's this? What are they doing? Why are they here? What do they want? The movie's constantly fighting between it wants to be like a smart thriller or a sexy slasher kind of movie. It really just does not ever like choose a path to go. And you'd think that writers, so one of those things that I absolutely hate in movies is when they blame a lot of the things of the villain on mental illness without doing research of the mental illness. It's like, oh, they're autistic, so they can count well. It's like one of those stupid things. So yeah, the main crutch of the movie is mental illness, which is a poorly executed plan. It really is. The actors feel like they were just given the lines right before they started filming. It is terrible from all aspects. Please do not watch this. But if you have to watch something, watch this over iCarly. Pretty please.
Zach, I feel like your metrics week after week are leading to a conclusion that you have not said yet about the American viewing public.
I am definitely learning something about people. I don't know what it is yet, but I have yellow legal pads of notes about all humans in the United States that I'm coming to some sort of thesis.
That likely will be held against you at some point. All right. Well, well, ladies and gentlemen, that has been the Netflix Metrix.
Nice job, Zach.
Yeah,
we do have a guest today, and I did go out of order. I forgot, but we do have Jason Taylor with us.
Hey,
the very lovely Jason Taylor. Jason, tell everyone about yourself real quick and your podcast and all that kind of good stuff.
My name's Jason. I host the 3 Geeks podcast. We're live every Sundays at noon on the Scene Snobs channel and on the 3 Geeks channel. And we do interviews and stuff. It's been a lot of fun journey. All
right, that is a fun journey. And whoever's crinkling stuff.
Howard, come on, man.
All right, well, we do have a great show for you. In addition to the Netflix Metrix, we're going to talk about Justice League. That's a movie from up-and-comer Zack Snyder about some superheroes that you may have heard of.
Yeah.
The
rookie
Netflix
director.
The Last Block. It's a sequel to the movie of the same name. And then the Last Blockbuster, about the last blockbuster in America. Murder Among the Mormons. I won't give that away, but there is murder and there are Mormons that we'll talk about. And then Operation Varsity Blues, which is another great Netflix documentary. So let's jump right in and talk about Murder Among the Mormons.
Some Mormon murdering. We're going to get right into it. Thanks, Jeff. So listen, I have always been fascinated by the Mormon church. I cannot speak for the rest of you guys, but I find this church and their adherents an absolutely fascinating community. I read a lot about it. For those of you who may have seen it, John Krakauer wrote an unbelievable book called Under the Banner of Heaven. Has anybody read that? It's an expose, and it's riveting, and it discusses the formation and growth and kind of all the modern issues that the Mormon church had to navigate, things like polygamy and domestic abuse and racist allegations and all these things. And for whatever reason, The Mormon Church, now known as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, persists. And at one point, just not that long ago, actually was the fastest growing religion in the United States. Can you guys believe that? And it's true. So when Netflix produced this 3-part documentary, which is, by the way, directed by Jared Hess. Anybody know Jared Hess?
Oh, yeah, Jared Hess. But tell
familiar.
Jared Hess wrote and directed Napoleon Dynamite.
Okay.
Yeah. So, right. So I jumped on it because I knew it was going to throw some kind of Mormon wrinkle into this that I hadn't heard about already. And I'm just fascinated by it, as I said. So, and it turned out it absolutely is fascinating. So the story is centered on 3 bombings in Salt Lake City that happened in 1985, which killed a couple people, injured a few more. And they were all around this circle of people who dealt in the collection of rare documents, and particularly documents from the 1800s, which shine a light on the forming of the Mormon Church and its founder, Joseph Smith. So, brief history lesson. The Book of Mormon was supposedly transcribed by Joseph Smith from a magical golden series of plates that he dug up in his own backyard in upstate New York. And he was led to the exact spot by an angel named Moroni. And fast forward to the 1980s, and the central figure in this documentary is this genius young document collector. And this is all true, by the way, Mark Hoffman, who unveils a series of documents that he's discovered, including one bombshell document that is nicknamed the Salamander Letter. And the Salamander Letter is it's a document that where Joseph Smith's lead disciple reveals that there was no angel. In fact, Joseph Smith was led to the golden plates by a white salamander. And right, so the Salamander Letter rocks the very foundation of the church, as you might imagine. And all these old white Mormon leaders are scrambling. They're forced to defend the very foundation of the religion after all these documents that this Mark Hoffman has discovered are all independently verified to be authentic. And now the church has got to deal with all these people asking questions about the Book of Mormon and why a salamander was never mentioned. And then all of a sudden these bombings come and people start to believe that the church is starting to cover this thing up, to handle this, in a really different way. Everybody's freaking out. And all the while, Mark Hoffman, this genius, seemingly can find any rare document he wants. And they all want to know where he's getting all this. And it's not ruining the show for me to tell you what happened, because this is real and you could look it up. But Mark Hoffman, turns out, was not a genius document collector. Rather, he turns out to be a genius forger. And he created all of this stuff. And literally everything he found was handcrafted by himself. And it turns out the dude actually is a flat out psychopath murderer. And that is the epicenter of the story. So it is
spoiler.
Well, it's not a spoiler because it's all news, but it is an amazing story. And it takes a bunch of different turns, including the ending, which I did not even tell you the complete ending. So I highly recommend it. It's fascinating. I find the Mormons continue to be fascinating. I hope you guys too. So it's 4 or 5 tomato sauce jars.
Yeah. I watched the first 2.
All right.
They have one of them. Bob keeps disappearing. They had who's the one guy that's kind of like the Whisperer from Game of Thrones? He looks like
right.
But it is fascinating to me, just like how much the cover up and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it'd be like if I was on it wasn't 3 wise men, it was just some guy, a chicken and a rooster.
It's true. Well, it's like I don't know anything about the Mormons today, but I'll just say this. They are one of the most secretive societies in the world, right? Their very foundation, the way it's led, even the physical church itself, you're not allowed in. You have to actually have credentials to get physically into these churches. So it is, to have this guy blow it up with this authenticated letter was an amazing story.
I have two questions. One, how many episodes is this series?
Well, I can tell you.
The second question, I'm sorry, Howie, what did you do with all of the combs from that barber cup that you're drinking from?
It's impressive, isn't it?
I was like, watch him drink this like barber thing. I was like, what is this?
Barbicide.
Everyone, great news, everyone. Casey Ryan Plott, for those of you tuning in to Crossing the Streams for the first time, Casey Ryan Plott, when he shows up, which is most of the time, we try and convince him to watch these shows. So getting a convince from Casey Ryan Plott is amazing.
Appreciate it, CRP.
So appreciate
Zach, it's 3 episodes.
3.
I think each episode's probably 45, 50 minutes.
Yeah.
Now,
does it do that thing that some Netflix things do where they kind of stretch it out? It should be like a tight movie and they pull it out to make actual episodes, or does it keep you kind of engaged all the time?
Yeah, well, I think it does stretch it out. They could have made it a single documentary, but I will say this. It is, they go deep into the context of the church. What would allow something like this to blow it up the way it did? So it's kind of like a history lesson and a documentary. So that's why it was 3 episodes.
Yeah, but
wow.
It was definitely interesting. Definitely worth checking out. All right. Awesome. Ron, you convinced Casey. It's a good day.
Good job, Ron.
All right. But now the pressure's on. We're going to talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League. This is a sequel to the movie of the same name from a few years ago. It's a very similar plot. Same actors.
Some would say identical.
Jason, give a little bit of background for those you may not know, and then go into your 4-hour review of the Justice League.
We'll release the director's cut of my Justice League review later. But so we got Man of Steel, we got Batman v Superman, and then we got a weird little like wannabe Marvel movie with the Justice League movie that was released in theaters. So much so that they got the guy who directed the original Avengers and Avengers 2 to redo the previous Justice League. But with the Snyder cut, we go back to Snyder's vision, and I am not a fan of Batman v Superman. I really loved Man of Steel. Everything falls apart when they suddenly become best friends because their moms share the same name. But in this movie, I didn't think I would like this because I haven't been the biggest fan of DC's dark work. I feel like they keep trying to turn every character into Batman. That's one of the problems I had with Batman v Superman, because Superman was more like Batman. He's moody. He didn't like being. You'd think Superman would like being Superman. I'm just saying. But in this movie, I feel like Zack Snyder really, really nailed down the characters. We get some humor thrown in with the Flash. Superman's in it. He comes back later on. Spoiler alert, maybe if you didn't see the trailers. But Superman comes back. He's more like the Superman from the comics. And I thought this was really solid. Like, I really didn't think I was going to like this. If they had cut out the 4 hours of slow motion that was in this movie, it would have been so much better. But, it is what it is. We get like a half an hour of slow motion thrown into this movie. But I really thought the characters were nailed. I thought the plot was so much better. I felt like the story flowed. For the first time, I feel like Zack Snyder nailed the characters in this story. And I want to see the Ben Affleck Batman movie. Like, really bad. With Jeremy Irons as Alfred and J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon. Because that right there is a cast. And they are strong in this. The entire cast is strong. I mean, the Flash is probably the weakest link for me in this. But, yeah, I liked it a lot.
But before Howard gives a counterpoint, I do want to say a couple of things. I also enjoyed it, and I did not think I would. I do think contractually a movie can't be considered a Zack Snyder movie if it has less than 30 minutes of slow motion in it. So I think that's where that comes from.
That's fair.
And then I did learn that some of the actual footage of Superman was actually repurposed from Man of Steel, and that was interesting to learn. I do think it's great that he was able to get his vision and do his version of the movie. I do think a 4-hour version of a movie is a bit insane. And so to think that this would have been the version that came out had he done it many years ago, I don't think this would have been that movie. You know what I mean? So what happened, whatever. But it does point, the person who loses really the most out of this, except for Howard, who lost 4 hours of his life, is Joss Whedon, I think, is the one who's is losing the most. But I do want to just point out one quick thing. I do want to share one thing with everyone, is this image. This is from Batman vs. Superman. And the little girl circled there, that is my daughter.
Oh,
That is my daughter.
all right. Big movie star.
Yeah, that is.
May I now comment?
Yes, you may. You may now go.
You may
Allow
pounce.
me to preface this by saying that I started collecting The Brave and the Bold in the late 1970s. I am a Batman guy. I had a subscription that is an actual print in a brown paper cover subscription to Batman and the Outsiders that delivered to my house monthly. I wanted all of these DC movies to be fantastic. This movie is atrocious. It's atrocious. Is it better than the first one? Absolutely. But I strongly believe that anybody that quote unquote loved this is because their hopes were so high for the first one. And there's no question this is better than the first one. The acting is terrible. Every line out of Ben Affleck's mouth is so, it's acted so out of context of everything going on. The whole setup to the movie and learning everything about the plot of the movie is these ridiculous, over-narrated Gal Gadot flashbacks that come out of nowhere. Momoa, who I love, just makes sounds. He doesn't say anything. He's like, yeah. That's his entire dialogue in the movie. The Flash is great. I love the fact that the Martian Manhunter made an appearance. Spoiler alert, which is great, and hopefully sets things up. But there's nothing. There's no charm. There's no feel to the films whatsoever. With great characters, it was painful just to listen to, like, the droning. The whole scene where they first fight together in the water, whatever, the tower or whatever. There's 3 different ways that these quote unquote, they all have to walk up the stairs. Then they use their superpowers to fly, climb, whatever around. And then they all have to be rescued by the Nightcrawler. There's no flow to the movie whatsoever. It's so poorly scripted. And again, it's way better than the original. There's no doubt, but it's polishing a turd. You polish a turd, all you get is a slightly buffed turd and a dirty rag. That's what you get, and that's what this was. It was 4 hours. I mean, look, I like the dark side appearance. They made the characters look better. Steppenwolf looked better than he did in the original. So yeah, they did improve it, but it's not a good movie. It's a better version than the first one, which are 2 very, very different things. There you go.
Okay. All right.
One of the things that sucks about this, and I have my podcasting member feels the exact same way as you do, Howard. One of the things that really sucks about this, and him and I had this conversation yesterday, and like I said, he's on Howard's side as far as liking this movie. It was that DC announced yesterday that they're not going to continue this at all. And him and I both agreed that is a mistake, because right now the Justice League has such good buzz going around for it. And the fact that they're not going to try to continue this for the people that really enjoyed it, because there's a lot of people out there that really enjoyed this, is stupid. And like I said, he didn't even like the movie, and he agrees that if DC was smart, they'd keep going. And the fact that they're not, they're talking about a David Ayer cut, which is actually done of Suicide Squad, because he cut the movie and then they hired a trailer company to recut the movie to give us a long music video for Suicide Squad. So his cut's ready and he wants to push it out too. And DC's like, no, we're not doing this anymore. Like, they came out and made a hard stand. I just think that's stupid.
Well,
yeah, I would agree. I would continue it too, because you do have good buzz. There's no doubt, and they could done right. They could definitely make it pay off. so we have a mutual friend and Ron's cousin, who his defense of liking this is they turned the comic book in. You can't make a graphic novel, a movie of this scale, and say, oh, they just they brought the graphic novel to life. I don't want to watch a movie where I can't see anything. Like, it's just, that doesn't make any sense. You know, like, it just.
Are we talking about Justice League or Watchmen now?
No, yeah, Justice League. Well, the Watchmen movie was the same way. You know, it was a good movie, but it just, I don't want to be depressed. Like, if I want to, you know, like, I'll watch a documentary about mental health. Yeah, about killing Mormons. About
no, the Mormons killed. It's not about killing.
Oh, that's
Mormons.
true. That's true. But they did kill other Mormons.
It just,
but nobody. Yeah, it was all.
Yeah,
it wasn't an.
And the immediate defense is, well, you know, it's well, it's not trying to be the Marvel movies. Fine. Don't try and be the Marvel movies. It doesn't mean you can't entertain me.
Right. Fine. Don't try to be seen and enjoyed. But
Right.
the interesting thing for all those, for the counterpoint to everyone loves it, is the numbers I read today are not even as many people watched Justice League as watched Wonder Woman 1984. Wow. So the actual numbers themselves, while the people that did watch it brought down the servers within the first 5 minutes or whatever, it isn't necessarily getting as many people as the previous much reviled.
But how did it compare against iCarly? Pretty good.
People are watching iCarly. It's getting very.
It's great. Zack mentioned on Monday that iCarly wasn't in the 10, so I made sure I watched it every hour until now, so it would get into the 10.
Yeah, they came back strong.
Jason,
I was gonna say, I disagree with everything Howie says. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I am a comic book fan, and you can't look at this movie and say this was not a good movie. This is a trilogy. It is a fantasy trilogy. It is a staple mark of media history. Number one, it is not a movie that was supposed to be made. It was a movie that was supposed to be in 2 movies, a possible trilogy that fans got behind because of a great donation drive. And this isn't how his first movie was going to be. It wasn't like my first Justice League is going to be a 4-hour movie. No, this was his plans for like a 3-movie thing that he knew he wasn't going to do anything else. So he kind of crammed it all together to do this thing. I will say that there is a little bit of hype because Justice League, the theatrical cut, is so terribly bad. And this movie is an improvement, like, to the nth degree. It actually makes every storyline and plot line make sense. It looks better. It feels better. The score is better. the thing is better. And there's only 23 minutes of slow motion, not 30 minutes. So that was an adequate time. Obviously, I have my problems with the movie. It's not a perfect movie per se, but as a trilogy that follows up Batman versus Superman, which I liked the Ultimate Edition. I liked the director's cut of that. It is a gritty, darker version of a comic book movie. But if you read Batman like you do, there are probably 15 comics right now that are gritty, dark Batman that is not fun, that is dark, that ends on a weird cliffhanger that you don't know what it is. And I like it. The things I don't like that Aquaman constantly throws his clothes into the ocean. I don't understand why he does that. I don't know why women smell his clothes constantly. It probably smell like fish. I don't get that whatsoever. I don't know why he put the black suit on, because it seemed cool in the movie, whereas in the comics it actually makes sense. There are a lot of things this movie does wrong, but I will say that it is probably his best movie outside of 300. It is probably DC's most enjoyable movie. It is probably DC's most rewatchable out of all those, and maybe Wonder Woman 1. But I'm a fan. I liked it.
Can I ask? I have a geek question. So he wore the black suit, and that was like a big deal. Like, oh, this black suit Superman. But why did they let Superman and Lois, the TV show Superman and Lois, best them by a week, knowing this was coming out, and have him wear that suit?
Well, the black suit is just a fan service that people don't really know what it is. They're like, oh, the black suit's cool. There actually is a purpose. When Superman comes back from the dead, he doesn't have any powers whatsoever. And the black suit allows his cells to regenerate a lot faster because of the suit and the way it receives the solar superpower. So there's a point in the comics for the suit. In the movie, it's just because Snyder loves Superman. Snyder has such a crush on Superman. I've never seen a person love a character more than the way Zack Snyder loves and idolizes and obsesses over Superman. But yeah, there's a point for it, just not in the movie.
I'll just say the defense of it being part of a trilogy and the culmination of a trilogy. Indiana Jones 4 and the Phantom Menace were part of major series of movies and were also terrible. To me, sure. It's not a defense. There's nothing. Can you remember any actual dialogue from this movie that you, other than the Flash? I'll give you the Flash. I think that was a great, funny, good character in the movie. Other than that, is there anything anybody says in this that's memorable?
Yeah, one of the first lines and the last line of this movie is "You are not alone." And knowing that this movie came from suicide prevention, knowing why this movie sparked the way it was, "You are not alone" is a powerful message. That it might not be a grandiose like your favorite Iron Man line, such as "I am Iron Man," or your favorite Black Panther line, such as "I'm Black Panther," or your favorite Doctor Strange line, such as "I'm Doctor Strange." No other movies have like big quote things that people are like, "Oh, I love the way this thing sounds." Nah, I know. There's a couple, sure, but
I'm not even talking big quotes. I'm talking about like dialogue. Affleck there's nothing he says that's intelligible in the movie.
Yeah, at one point he goes, "I've got 6 satellites."
Yeah,
right.
He also says,
he goes,
"I'm rich."
I'm rich. Yeah, that's my secret. I will say, because we haven't really discussed it, but I do want to say that after watching Josh Whedon's version of this movie, we live in a society actually didn't make the cut of the movie, Jerry. It was only in the preview. He's on morphine, so he probably doesn't know.
Good for him, actually.
But the one thing I did want to mention is after watching the Joss Whedon version, I thought the cyborg character was a waste, stupid. Like they're just throwing in another character. After watching this Snyder cut version, I really started to like that character. I mean, you realize what a butcher job Joss Whedon did to the whole storyline and everything that had to do with that character, because his character was so important to the movie, and Joss Whedon just kind of hacked that to hell. So
the Flash setup scene was significantly better than the original movie. That was a great scene and really well done. That was the only character I truly liked from the movie.
I think Jerry sums it up well for you, Howard. It makes iCarly look like Hannah Montana.
True.
I do want to move on, but this was a good chat. Lee from earlier. Salamanders have angelic qualities, by the way. Have you seen one? So that's Tehran. So just in terms of. So maybe a salamander could carry something like that. I think that's what we're saying is possible. It's possible. So that's cool. All right. So if anyone hasn't noticed, I had complete technical difficulties last week, but yet managed to stay on the whole time. Yet managed to deal with customer support on one computer and completely managing a completely live show on the fly on the other one. Bob is no longer here. Bob, though, however, was taking the lead on Operation Varsity Blues. This is, for some reason, everyone who watches this thinks it's called the Admissions Scandal, College Scandal, because I think on actually Netflix, that's what they call it. I don't think they call it by the name of the actual movie.
That's right.
Operation Varsity Blues. So I did watch this movie, so I'll run shotgun on it, and then I think Sal saw it as well, and
I saw it as well, Jeff.
Okay, so we all saw it. I'll give it, and then we'll kind of talk about it because this is.
Can I say what the name should have been for this? It shouldn't have been Operation Varsity Blue. There was no varsity athletes. It should have been Operation Freshmen Have No Talent Blues. That's what it should have been called. Go ahead, Jeff. I had to get that joke in.
It should be Rowing Is Not a Sport.
Yeah. Whoa! Hey, we're gonna get letters.
So
we're gonna get emails now.
Rowing
You're avid rower.
You're avid rower. If we didn't get letters last week, we're not getting letters this week.
I apologize to the rowing community.
So as most people know, because of their love for Aunt Becky from Full House, there was something that went on not too long ago, actually, where it became very clear that there were many very rich white families, mostly it was all rich white people, right? Basically buying their way into prestigious colleges. And so what this movie does, it is a documentary. It's about, I don't know, an hour, 40 minutes or so, like that. So it is one of those HBO shows that does actually just use the amount of time and doesn't turn this into 5 hours of McMillions. So sorry, Howard, I know you like that one. But
shorter.
So just
Zack
a quick
Snyder's
background is there's this person named Rick Singer. Rick Singer has a background. He used to coach for college sports. When he left that job, the knowledge that he had was that he recognized that there was this quote unquote side door way to get people into colleges. That side door being get them approved, and then it doesn't have to go specifically through the admissions process. It goes through the coaches onto these lesser known sport teams. So we're not talking about putting someone on a football team. We're talking about water volleyball. We're talking what else is it? What is the paddling one? Rowing, crew,
one of them was sailing,
right?
Yeah.
So these smaller
checkers. No, I don't know.
Checker, competitive chess. And so it's called a side door because the reality is there's also what's called a back door. The back door is and still exists to this day, and will probably always exist, is my rich dad donates, like this happened to Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner's father donates $2.5 million. Don't quote me on the exact amount, but millions upon millions of dollars to Harvard, and suddenly he's admitted. Right, without the grades of anyone or anything or test scores of someone who should have been admitted. And so this also went to the point where they would send these people to certain test locations, the SAT locations, and get them to first the students would go get evaluated and be evaluated having a disorder or something that made them allow for extra time on their tests. This is something actually that a lot of people do in every city to get their kids extra time where suddenly they have a disorder that they didn't have prior. That means you can have 7 hours on the SAT instead of 4, or it's taken over 2 days, etc. So they would then have those people go to this location where then they paid off the person administering the test, who would then redo the answers on the test. And literally, because they were smart enough, and by smart enough, it's very clear that meaning like any 40-year-old should be able to pass a test meant for a 17-year-old. So, to get them the scores that they would need to get into school. And then they would doctor photos. So they would take Sal's face and put him on an actual water polo person's body, and then submit that through the water polo team and make a very large donation, to get them to be approved by the coach as a member of that team. And so the famous thing is Lori Loughlin's daughter, who that whole thing kind of blew up in her face because her daughter was Olivia Jade, who had this huge influencer career, like huge. Like one of the takeaways I took is, wow, they're bad parents. They should have just let her be what she was going to be. I mean, she was accomplishing more than, and the scandal not only, and most of the time, just so everyone knows, the kids didn't even know this stuff was going on. And so, they basically ruined her entire career, the daughter's career, by forcing them in. Anyway, but the premise of the movie is fascinating in the sense, Matthew Modine stars as Rick Singer. And this isn't like most of those cheesy movies and documentaries where they do these ridiculous reenactments. It's actually really, really well acted. Mm-hmm. And they use the exact wire transfer scripts. I say that assuming it's true, wiretap scripts that they do. So it's all the actual dialogue that's going back and forth. And when you watch it, it's absolutely fascinating, and it's just how some people were manipulated and got screwed and all that kind of stuff. And the interesting thing is, this Rick Singer guy was such a good salesperson. He's still free. He's still running and doing whatever, because his deal was, until everyone else got prosecuted, he's sitting there as a free person. So it could be, so while Lori Loughlin and Felicity Huffman and all those people were in jail, and other people spent 5 weeks, 5 months in jail, he's still free as a bird until all this gets cleared up. And there's probably a good half dozen people that could take years to get through the legal system.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I liked about it, Jeff, was seeing the students that did not get in to the schools. They would show like Zoom videos of those students not getting in and crying because they couldn't get in. I thought that was kind of a little added thing to show. Also, what I was thinking about, obviously, like you said, Jeff, they had to use sports that really didn't make a lot of money. But I was thinking, like, can you imagine how many of these so-called athletes they could have hid if they could have used like the USC football team? Because there's like 70 guys on the side. You could have hid the two daughters, and Brent Musburger could have went, hey, USC has 2 female field goal kickers on the backup team. I mean, you could have hid so many of these really money if you could have used a football team, but obviously you can't. Those football teams make all the money so those sports do exist, like rowing and all that. But I thought Modine did a great job in it. Obviously, he's a very well-respected actor. I thought it was really good. You did a good job reviewing it, but I don't know. Ron, I think you said you saw it as well.
I did. I always remark on schemes like this. Do you ever notice they always go south, not because somebody caught on to the scheme and the feds get investigating. It's something secondary always happens, unrelated to the event, that suddenly puts the feds onto the scent of what's actually going on. And that's exactly what happened here.
Right. Some guy got arrested and then said, well, I can give you information on Rick Singer if you let me go.
That's exactly right.
But the funny thing is, Ron, that's how a lot of things happen. Like, you can have murderers, they get pulled over for a traffic ticket, and that's how they catch them. I mean, it happens a lot.
Well, I got a question for you guys though. When Rick Singer would be on the phone with some of these parents, and they would like be doubting it a little bit, like, he would say, oh, we've been doing this for 24 years. Was that just a line that he was using, or was it really going on for 24 years? Did you guys catch that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know
either. Yeah,
it seemed like he was lying about a lot of stuff, so I would assume that was a lie also.
Right.
Here's my question. I liked it. I thought it was actually really cool. I liked the version and the usage of the playbacks. But my question is, throughout the whole thing, what was he using? I'm assuming he made money, but what was he doing with his money? Because they said multiple times he would get up at 4 a.m, he'd just go to work, and he would travel and he'd work, and he would work, and then he would work, and then he would work. But they never showed him spending or doing anything.
The only thing they showed, Zach, is that he had a ridiculous car. What was it?
The Tesla.
Was it a Tesla?
His house.
Yeah.
His house was enormous too. His house.
Yeah, he seemed to be just the guy that, like, I think there's certain people that they like winning. So it's like, it's not even about, he had the nice car, he could fly around, he probably was first class everywhere he went, all that kind of stuff. And so, it is great though. Everyone should watch it. It was it's a great deep dive into understanding the scandal and everything that kind of went on, and just the scam that happened.
Yeah, I'll just say one other thing, Jeff, before we move on, is that it's interesting because Yale and Stanford are featured in this, but I also found it super interesting that a lot of the schools that were wrapped up in this are not like what you'd consider to be elite schools.
Well, the other interesting thing is they blame the schools.
Yeah,
first of all, we reconvinced Casey Ryan Plot, so success.
Nice.
But just basically kind of the greatest thing, the biggest scam is that the only way to get a good education is to go to Harvard or one of these Ivy League schools, and so it's like, and then that creates this demand, and then it creates all these things that, on all these backdoor deals and all that kind of stuff. But we do have one more amazing show to talk about, so I don't want don't want to cut our friend Howard, but we got the last
Do it, Howard.
Blockbuster.
Yeah.
The very last.
I owe them money.
So this aside from loving this movie, it was special for me because I did manage at a Blockbuster Video for the better part of 2 years. I love this. This goes along to me with what we keep talking about every week. We seem to have one of these truly charming, feel-good movies, and I thought this was a lot of that. I also thought it was a very, very interesting commentary, a social commentary. Just to summarize it, when they started doing the documentary, there were 4 remaining Blockbuster Video stores, 3 in Alaska and 1 in Bend, Oregon. Long story short, it's Googleable. You can find it. There is now only 1 store remaining in Bend, Oregon. That is the Last Blockbuster. It's a franchise store that was originally an independent store that became a Blockbuster. The most fascinating thing that I found about this movie, and I couldn't think of anything else like it, was something that was so visceral and part and parcel of probably all of us, especially the older ones. It was such a major, massive part of our lives for a long stretch of time. That's what you did. I mean, even before Blockbuster, you went to the video store, you picked out a movie, you came home, you plotted holiday weekends around, we better go, there's not going to be anything left. We better go out now because we need to have 6 movies for a long holiday weekend. It's going to snow. When you're going to be locked in, what the hell are we going to watch? Date nights. Yeah. Date nights when you were just dating with arguing about stuff with your girlfriend or wife. It was such a part of our lives, and then it was gone. And I could not remember anything. I couldn't put my finger on anything else in my life that was like that. That was such a major part of life that's now just gone. I'm not technology, obviously, but this was, it was just amazing. It was, I liked it because there's a good business story to it too. I truly thought that the story was that they had an opportunity to buy Netflix, which they did. And that was the reason that the business folded, was because they got pushed out by Netflix, which when you watch this documentary is not the case at all. There's actually more of a business, a little bit of business and economics that goes into this story. So that's a part of it. There's a lot of celebrities, C-list celebrities that worked at Blockbuster. Jamie Kennedy, the actor and comedian, was his first work in Hollywood was a Blockbuster commercial with Jim Gaffigan, of all people. So I loved it. And then the other part of the story that's amazing is the woman who's managed this Last Blockbuster. She's been the manager for 20 years. Wow. Her entire family and their neighbors and everybody they know, her kids, her nephews and nieces, they've all worked in the store. And to see everything that she's gone through up to this point, not knowing when or if the end would come. And she's just an amazing person. It's really cool. It was just a really heartwarming movie. And it was nostalgic for sure. I truly, after my experience working with Blockbuster, if I ever make it out to the Pacific Northwest, I will go to this store. They talk in the movie about how every one of us could describe the smell of a Blockbuster video. And that's absolutely true.
Good candy. They always had good candy there.
Good candy, a little bit of the butter from microwave popcorn packages. Yep. Just the smell of the plastic and the tape.
Howard, did you ever do the thing where your video was due and then you start doing the calculation of maybe I'll keep it for another day? How much is that going to cost me?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you a funny story. It wasn't a Blockbuster, but Jeff will remember this. I mentioned this to my wife because she mentioned that she once had $70 in late fees. We had a fraternity brother. The first year we were in our fraternity house, nobody had a VCR. He rented on his credit card a VCR and 4 movies, and the VCR kept bouncing around the fraternity house. The movies kept bouncing around. It kept getting later and more overdue to the point where the video store ended up charging him for the VCR and the movies. I think the fraternity just decided to pay for it, like cut him a deal and that became the house VCR for like the next 4 years. So yeah, it was such, again, I couldn't remember anything else like that. You know, other things have improved technology wise, right? But there were not, at its peak, there were 9,000 Blockbuster stores globally. They said the statistic they said was at one point in time, a new Blockbuster was opening every 17 hours. And they're all gone except this one store.
You have to wonder if the rate of divorce and breakups since the Blockbuster went away. And the reason I say that was because the beautiful thing about a Blockbuster was anytime there was, what should we do? What do we need to do? Let's go to Blockbuster. Right. And it was just there, and you could just do that. And it was like, and you would just go. Sometimes, I mean, a lot of times we would move with, it's funny. It's like going to a Cheesecake Factory. Sometimes like too many movies, you can't decide either. You know, you fight over what you're going to watch and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I think Zack said he worked at one. I could picture the Zack recommendation section of the Blockbuster.
They talked about one thing about you would, if you were waiting for a movie and it just wasn't, it was supposed to be in, but it wasn't in yet. And so you would do the thing where you would sit and wait by the counter for people to return movies. And I remember doing that.
Stock the counter.
I remember doing that.
Yep.
And every time a movie would come in to shoot, you'd be like, "What is it? What's that movie? What's that movie?" I'm like, "Man, it's not even real wild. Give me some time."
Yeah, crazy. So I loved it. Again, I thought it was a great combination of charming and heartwarming and pure nostalgia and great business sense or business commentary on what the hell happened. How did that happen that fast? I highly recommend it.
All right. And good news. We've convinced Casey Ryan.
He's making popcorn. I might come make popcorn.
I saw something on TikTok, Kevin, Footloose guy, making popcorn on a walk. Anyway. Bacon, thank you. And then Jerry, we're checking in on Jerry. We do wish you well. His latest morphine-induced comment is Columbia House Records makes up 32% of the national debt. All right. This is gonna be a good one. Jason, say goodbye to everyone.
Goodbye, everybody. Check out the 3 Geeks at 3 Geeks podcast.
Awesome. Nice. Zach, my friend, say goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody. You can always check me out at somebodies.com and see me on my shows, Talking Upstream, Twitching Upstream, and any other of my billion shows that I just show up on and yell.
Howard, say goodbye to the good
Peace
folks.
out. Happy National Puppy Day, everybody.
Nice. Happy National Puppy Day. All right, Ron, say goodbye to everyone.
Nice. Have a great week, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Sal, say goodbye, my friend.
In the immortal words of Carol Burnett, I'm so glad we had this time together. Good night, everybody.
All right. Thank you, everyone, again, for visiting us and crossing the streams with us. Every week, we're back here Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, talking about the great TV shows and movies that you can only stream. And here we are. Definitely check out Sal's podcast, the Sal and Bob podcast. Check out my podcast, Live from Detroit, The Jeff Dwoskin Show. Current episode, I talked to John Candy's daughter. It's a great episode. Nice. Check that out.
Great.
Thanks to my friend Jason.
R.I.P. Bob.
All right. And Bob. All right. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you next week on Crossing the Streams.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Crossing the Streams, brought to you by scenesnobs.com and part of the Jeff Dwoskin Show. Your hosts, of course, Jeff Dwoskin, Sal D'Amelio, Bob Phillips, Ron Lippett, and Howard Rosner. Follow us all on the socials, and we'll see you next week and every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Mark your calendars. We're going live and crossing more streams.